Hey, everybody. So thank you for joining us today. It's Crystal Johnson here with Alan Johnson here at the AJ team at EXP Realty. So we just want to come on live today just to have a discussion about a question that we get asked all the time, especially since January 21st. We get this pretty consistently, and that is, how will the federal layoffs, job risks, elimination of positions affect our DMV housing market, right? The answer to that question is no one really knows.
Yeah.
Right? This is likely going to be the first time that a precedent is set where we see housing insecurity in the federal job market, right? It's been I'm sure there's been some times in the past, but in the recent past, we have not seen this, not mixed with the type of housing environment that we've had for the past, decade, right? So with that being said, no one really knows, but we can tell you what we're seeing happen, taking place right now, and then how sellers and buyers are preparing themselves in this situation.
Yeah. So the three things, first of all, hey y'all. Hey y'all.
Friday.
We're first recording out on our sunroom. How does it feel?
It's hot today, but it's a beautiful space. So I enjoy the space, but it's hot today.
We should turn on the fan.
You could turn on the fan. It's all right. It's all right. We ain't need any background noise. It's all good.
Yeah. So I think the three words that we're seeing first are fear, uncertainty, and actually preparation.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So why don't you talk a little bit about fear?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the first reaction that we see from everyone, ourselves included, right? Everyone has a certain level of fear, right? Now, some of us, we can manage that fear a little bit better than others, right? But the fear and the uncertainty behind what's going to happen next is real, right? And we acknowledge that as professionals. We acknowledge that in our own lives, right? In terms of when you are unsure of what the next thing will be, it does make you hesitate, right? In your decisions that you make and the choices that you make and things of that nature. So one, I just want to acknowledge and recognize the fear. The fear is real, right? But secondly, fear leads to uncertainty. And uncertainty can be met with two things, right? We can freeze in place and decide not to do anything, right? Or we can do what Alan's going to talk about next is prepare, right? So fear leads to uncertainty. Uncertainty should lead you to preparation so that way you're not paralyzed by what the next steps you and your family will take during these times.
Right. And keep in mind, in every real estate market, there's an opportunity. Right. And so in every real estate market, there's an opportunity. And what we're finding is we've had some clients that are just preparing differently. Right. Yeah. So one thing is that some people are more urgent. They're moving up their timeline to sell their properties. People who are thinking about selling, like, in the next 2 or 3 years are like, hey, I'm getting my chips off the table now. I'm going to get all the equity that I've gotten over the past 5, 10, 15 years off the table. Because they don't know if all those chips are going to be on the table later, and they know that they're going to be moving before the next market cycle happens, right? So the real estate market cycle generally is 5 to 7 years. COVID doubled that. So keep in mind, like we were already in an irregular market cycle. Like the market was supposed to do something different, or at least slow down or not explode like it did around COVID, right? And then COVID extended that. So what we're seeing is we had a client who literally they're selling their house here in Woodbridge. They're taking their chips off the table and they're figuring out whether they want to move out of state, out of the country. But they definitely know that having liquid cash puts them in a better situation than in a house that they know they might not be in for the next 4 to 5 years.
Yeah. And, probably one of the things that I take from that statement out is that everybody's different, right? So everyone's reacting differently based on their circumstances. So what's most important is that you have to have a professional in your corner that's helping you to slow down and think through your situation, right? Because everything's not created equal, right? The market is reacting differently depending on streets. Like it's not, we can't even call it, city or county or any of those things at this point. It is neighborhood level, right? A house that it can move expeditiously in one zip code over may be exactly different in a different zip code. So we have to make sure that as you're preparing, right, that you're talking through your unique situation, thinking about what your goals are for the next 5 to 10 years, right? and then mapping out a strategy that could help you during this time.
Right. So the second thing that I'm seeing is that agents and sellers aren't studying the market enough, right? So every market is reacting differently. So you literally have to go into micro markets and see what's happening. So here's an example. So we live on the Holy Road 234 corridor, and Colgan High School is still a very popular school, right? So people have been trying to get into the school district for a long time. So now they're finally seeing a little bit of a pause where they don't have to overcompete, but they're still competing for a home because they would rather be in this school system than pay for a private school.
Yep.
Right. So they're literally doing the math. They're like, I've been sending my kid to private school, which is X dollars. If I pay X amount of dollars for this house, which gives me, a little bit more monthly payment, whatever it is, this is a smarter financial decision for me. So these houses are still moving, although they're not moving at the clip they were last year.
Yeah.
Right. So I put a post out today. I heard 3 times from sellers this week that they've all said it. And they said, I wish I would have sold this home last year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And they were all different scenarios. Mm-hmm. Right. But at the end of the day, they all wanted to net the most money they possibly could. And I had to remind them, you already got a significant run up. So all you're doing is you're giving back 10% of the 100% appreciation you've already gotten.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just one of those recalibrations for sellers. You are going to risk the short 75% appreciation you get for trying to get a 10% that could risk all the money.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You don't want to jeopardize all your chips trying to get to that little extra, right? You've gained plenty over the last couple of years in this market. And we're talking about ourselves as well, right? We purchased the home literally a year ago from yesterday. We purchased this home that we're in right now. And we made that decision, right, based upon the fact that we knew that we were going to do a transfer of equity, right? And knowing also that at the end of the day, right, we have gotten to the top of that part of the market for that property, right? So at any rate, biggest thing is just making sure, to Alan's point, that you're preserving the equity that you have and you're making smart decisions about those next steps.
Yeah. So the other thing we're seeing is we're still seeing a lot of buyer activity.
Yeah.
Right. But what's changed is that buyer activity. So we would always know if you have 20 showings, you're going to get at least 3 offers.
Yep.
Right. Now, 20 showings can equal 0 offers.
Yep.
Right. It might take 40 showings to get an offer.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Same thing with new builders. They're still getting a level of activity, but I'm seeing these new home reps are working harder, right? Because I'm seeing more emails, I'm seeing more incentives to agents, I'm seeing more homes that are dropping back on the market because people had to make a decision between staying in the house or giving it up.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're still seeing the activity. That's the beautiful thing about the DMV, right? Is that there's still plenty of people out there that are looking to buy. It's just kind of it's just different, right? We're not dealing with the hyper sellers market anymore.
Yeah. And I think that buyers also being very conscientious, right? So, they know that they should be deliberate about the decision that they're making on that purchase, which we're seeing why homes are sitting on the market a little bit longer. Not to say they won't sell, just it's going to take a little bit more time. They're making very deliberate, conscientious decisions about this home that I'm going to purchase today is somewhere that I need to be able to lock down into for the next market cycle, right? So they're looking at it from that angle. I need to make sure that this is the one we're going to really hunker down in over the next 5 to 7 years.
Yeah. Do you see prices dropping?
I would see prices correcting. I wouldn't say dropping, right? I think that, as Alan mentioned, we have been in this kind of a bull-like market for such a long time coming off COVID, right? What we're starting to see are normal appreciation, right? The years that we had, right at COVID, post-COVID of 20% appreciation in one given year, that is not going to happen, right? That is changing. So if you want to use the words, values dropping because of the fact that you're not going to see a 20% appreciation, that is not the correct terminology. What we're seeing is the market correcting itself, right? We will continue to see the market appreciate. We've already seen the DMV area as a whole has appreciated year over year by 4%. that is the normal appreciation for any given real estate market to stay as a healthy market. So I think that what we'll see is that, the market will continue to appreciate, values will appreciate, but it's going to be at a more consistent and a pace or rate that where it should be. It's corrected itself.
Yeah, I do see vulnerable real estate values dropping. So let me explain vulnerable. I'll give you a couple examples. So we got a house currently on the market out in the middle of like Orange County, right? And there's so many new builds. There's so much dirt around Orange County in that area where they can't compete with the builders.
Yeah.
This resale property can't compete with the builders. The builders can adjust price. They've always got an inventory. So that's a vulnerable piece of real estate, right? Because your competition just isn't the next door neighbor. Your competition is Richmond American, Atlantic Homes,
corporate conglomerate, right?
Yeah, you can't compete. So there's an argument that home will not sell, like until the next market cycle, right? The next 7 years. Condos.
Yeah.
So condos are vulnerable because there's so much competition in your building, right? So we are seeing condo buildings. Like there's some condos that we've seen that have dropped like between 5 and maybe like 6 or 7%, some like 3%. And it depends on the quality of your condo building. So now the condo association matters, which is why we've been telling everyone who owns a condo to
get on your board. You should participate, be active, because these things matter when it comes to selling your real estate.
Yeah. And if you're involved in your HOA, like one bad neighbor or one bad decision in your HOA can affect your property value. So could be vulnerable, right? Real estate, right? And then also, like, anytime you have a product where the builder still has the ability to be able to build around you and they're doing it for a long period of time, you're vulnerable, right? And we saw that in the last market cycle. Those were the properties that were the first to drop, and they dropped hard, right? And then I also got to remind y'all, like, just because your property dropped by 10%, you can't ignore the 50% it went up, like, over the past 5 years. You have to be like smart when it comes to like thinking about money, right? Because like that's how you make a stupid decision.
Yeah. And that kind of leads to our next point, right? Like in this type of market, it takes expertise and critical thinking skills, right? You are not going to go into this type of market and you're going to wing it, right? That is not how you can approach this market. You need to be very thoughtful and analyze every situation based upon the merits of what you have going on, right? And you're going to need people in your corner, right? You got to need professionals in your corner that can help you see, the scope of where you're working towards and what you're trying to accomplish that gets you into the right position to make the right decision, right? This is not one of those things where you try to pull, something out of your hat. Like you're going to have to be really ready to think critically about your next steps.
Yeah. And that's the beautiful thing about working with the AJ team is that like every morning first of all, we start with devotion, right? And then we have 30 minutes where we're really talking together about what's happening in the market and solving problems, right? And that's the challenge with the agent who doesn't have the experiences. They never sold in this type of market. So it's very easy for them to let you make a decision that you shouldn't be making that's going to cost you money because they don't have the experience to tell you like, nah, that's not smart.
Yeah.
Right. And I think 100% of all the sellers that we've worked with this year have all been wrong in their pricing.
Yeah.
But I told them what we knew through our collective knowledge, and it all worked out for them. Yeah. Right. So I think that's the benefit of like, you can't just work with someone who has a real estate license.
Yeah.
Like you could get away with that when you were just willing to pay anything and the market was willing to give you anything.
Yeah.
Right. Now that decision is going to give you something you don't want. Right. So if you run across anyone, really just anywhere in the country who is selling a piece of real estate, we've got great real estate partners that are on these calls with us. We got people from Texas, from like all over the place that are on the call, sharing information, sharing data so we can be smart for you guys, right?
Yeah. And also dedicated professionals, right? When you get up every morning, right, to really discuss, what is happening real time, right? To share real time stories, to get you guys the most up-to-date and current information. That is what's going to be the most valuable aspect of working with the right professional, right?
So last thing before we let you guys go is, Crystal, is it a good time to sell your home and move up into a bigger home? or move down into a home for our people who are downsizing?
I'm always going to say it depends, right? It really does depend on your specific situation. We have sellers who are in this conversation that we've been helping throughout the year, and it was a good idea for many of them, right? There were others where it wasn't a good idea. But either way, the biggest way that you can determine whether or not you should be doing it is by reaching out to us, give us a call. We can set up a 15-minute strategy session, and we can unpack your specific situation. So if anyone comes to you with a stroke of a pen and say, yeah, that's a great time to buy, great time to sell, you should definitely be doing this, I would just have to say that's a little bit of lip service, because there's no way we can tell you without knowing your situation. So depending on where you are and what your goals are and what you're trying to accomplish, that's going to be the answer to whether or not you should sell, downsize, or even buy in this market.
Yeah. We're going to do another video about assumptions. So if you guys don't know about assumptions are when, say, Crystal is selling a home and she has a VA loan or FHA loan. She's got a really low interest rate.
Yeah.
Well, there are certain situations where I can assume her mortgage.
Yeah. Right.
And we've had a lot of conversations over the past 6 months, like tracking the opportunities for people to do this. Yep. Right. And it's really a win-win. It offers the stuff.
Hey, you said in the next video.
Oh, damn. Okay.
Hey, I got to keep them on track in the next video.
Right. But look, real quick, if you are VA eligible, and if you are, if you currently own a home or you have a VA loan and you have some equity, reach out to us.
Yeah.
And especially if you want to move up, right? Or if you want to sell that property, call us, because we have some strategies that can help you that no one else is doing. Like, yeah. I think we've done like 70% of all the assumables in this county, right? Because we focus on it, because we studied it, because we surround ourselves with the information professionals and the expertise and knowledge to be able to do it. All right.
That's right.
Anything else?
No, that's all I got. So you guys know what to do. So if you have any questions, if you really want to sit down, talk smart about real estate and your next steps, definitely reach out to us. You can reach us at 571-210-1818. You can ask to schedule a strategy session to talk about your real estate goals. There's no obligation to that. That is just more of our way of helping you to navigate the pros and cons and what you should be doing next as it relates to this market. You can also, of course, reach us at referajt.com. referajt.com, and you can submit an inquiry and we'll be able to reach out to you that way as well, to see if we can be of assistance as you're making these decisions that are going to be critical to you and your family. Okay?
Yeah, you have the dream, we have the address.
See you soon.
See you soon, guys.